We're here on a final hearing. Ms. Schulte is with us for the department. Casa is with us. Ms. Archer is with us representing the child. Mr. Adams is with us representing the father, Mr. Mesa. He is not in the waiting room. He was earlier. He dropped off and has not come back. And Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the mother, who I show is incarcerated in Moore County. She is not in the waiting room, nor is anyone from Moore County Sheriff's Office. The only person I have in the waiting room is Shelley Patterson. So, Ms. Schulte, are we ready to proceed?
The department's ready, Judge.
Okay. All right, then you can call your first witness.
Before I call my first witness, I sent out 3 exhibits, which I've marked as petitioners 1 through 3, which are all business records, which have been served on the parties. I would ask that they be admitted into evidence.
Okay, can you tell me what each one of them is?
Yes, Judge. Petitioners 1 is records from the Deaf Smith County Sheriff's Office. Petitioners 2 is records from the Hereford PD, and petitioners 3 are medical records.
Okay. All right, any objections?
No, Your Honor.
All right, then petitioners 1, 2, and 3 are admitted.
And I would call Paula Mears. How old is she?
She will be 1 year next week.
Who are Indigo's parents?
Kaylee Patterson and Samuel Meza.
Could you briefly describe how Indigo came to be in the care of the department?
Yes, when Miss Kaylee Patterson went into labor, she arrived at the hospital and tested positive for methamphetamine, amphetamine, and marijuana. After labor, she admitted that she had been smoking methamphetamine and marijuana during the pregnancy, and then Indigo started showing signs of withdrawal.
Had Ms. Patterson attempted to obtain treatment prior to us taking custody of Indigo?
I do not recall that.
Did the department make contact with Mr. Meza after the removal?
I believe so, yes.
Have you had consistent contact with Mr. Meza?
I have attempted to. Mr. Meza has been pretty much non-compliant throughout the case, and I haven't had much contact with him at all. The first time I talked to him was in March.
Is it your understanding that he has been very open that he is not in a position right now to care for Indigo?
Yes.
That he is currently working on his own sobriety?
Yes.
In fact, are you under the understanding that he actually met Ms. Patterson in a rehab facility?
This is correct.
Has Mr. Meza had any visitation with Indigo?
Mr. Meza came and visited with Indigo, I believe it was Labor Day weekend of the first, when she was first born.
Does Mr. Meza's family and the Pattersons, Shelley and Gregory, have a good relationship?
They do. Miss Shelley Patterson, does FaceTime phone calls with Mr. Meza's mother, and so they work well together.
Do you believe going forward that any contact between Mr. Meza and Indigo could be worked out and supervised by the Pattersons?
I do.
Has Indigo been placed with Shelley and Gregory Patterson since the removal?
Yes.
How has she been doing there?
She has just flourished.
Have they been meeting all of her needs?
Yes.
And do you believe that they are protective of her?
Yes.
Do you believe that they have even been protective of her as it concerns their daughter, Kaylee?
Yes.
Regarding Ms. Patterson, is it your understanding that she is currently incarcerated?
That is, yes.
Do you know what she is currently incarcerated for?
Probation violation
And what was she on probation for?
for interfering with the custody of a child. She came and took indigo from placement.
Had it previously been made very clear to her that she could not have unsupervised access to indigo or any contact outside of being supervised by St. Francis?
Yes.
Had there been any other incidents leading up to that incident?
Yes.
And are those detailed in the police reports that we obtained from Duff Smith County and the Hereford Police Department?
Yes.
For how
Ms. Schulte, excuse me. Mr. Mesa is joined us. I think he's trying to connect to the audio. Let's give him a second. Okay, Mr. Mesa has now connected with us. He's connected to the audio.
Sorry.
That's all right. Ms. Schulte, you can proceed.
Ms. Mears, for how much of this case has Ms. Patterson been incarcerated?
The majority of the case.
During the time that she was in custody, was she able to complete any services?
No.
During the time she was out of custody, did she initiate any services?
No, in fact, she flat refused to begin any services or to cooperate in any way.
During the time that she was not in custody, did she have safe or appropriate housing?
No, she did not.
Did she obtain employment?
No.
Can you describe what your interactions with Ms. Patterson have been like?
When she was incarcerated, she was more rational, and we could speak civilly. When she was not incarcerated, that was a complete opposite. She would yell and scream and cuss and be very irrational and erratic, and just flat refused to cooperate, and usually ended up cussing and calling me all kinds of names.
Has that also been reflective of her behavior the times that she has participated in court?
Yes, that is.
Do you think that she grasps the seriousness of her substance abuse problems or mental illness?
No.
Do you believe that she would respect and follow any custody order that was put into place in this case?
No.
Has she already shown that she can't follow court orders when it comes to her daughter?
Yes, she has.
And that she apparently can't follow even her terms of probation?
This is correct.
Do you believe it would be contrary to Indigo's best interest for Ms. Patterson to have any possession or access to her?
Correct.
Do you believe it would be in her best interest for Mr. Mesa to be named a possessory conservator?
Yes.
Do you know whether he is currently employed?
Mr. Mesa receives disability from the military.
And do you believe it would be in her best interest for Shelley and Gregory Patterson to be named as her joint managing conservators?
I do.
And for the department to be dismissed at this time as her temporary managing conservator?
I do.
I'll pass the witness.
Right, thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Mears, whenever Ms. Patterson was incarcerated, was she ever sent a parenting packet or?
Yes, I did send her a parenting packet.
Okay, did she complete that parenting packet?
No.
Were there any other services that were available for her to work during her incarceration?
She did complete a psychiatric eval. She was offered to take participate in the COPS program, which is a drug and counseling program, but she basically refused to answer any of the questions openly and honestly and appropriately, and was denied access to that program.
Okay. And when she was out, whenever she was not incarcerated, did she complete any services for the department?
No.
Okay. And to be clear, is the department asking that Kaylee be named a possessory conservator with no visitation rights or access?
Correct.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adams.
No questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Archer?
No questions.
All right. Anyone have further questions for Ms. Mears?
No, Judge.
All right, then, Ms. Schulte, any other witnesses?
I would call Shelley Patterson.
Okay.
Does Indigo live with you and Gregory?
Yes.
Has it been explained to you what it means to take permanent custody of Indigo?
Yes.
Do you understand that you would be responsible for her care and for protecting her, and you would be like you would be her legal guardian?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that in taking permanent custody of her, you would not be entitled to any financial assistance or subsidies?
Yes, I understand.
Are you willing today to be named as Indigo's permanent managing conservator?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that Indigo staying in your home is what is best for her?
Yes, I do.
Are you willing to facilitate any visitation that you think is appropriate between Indigo's father, Samuel Meza, and Indigo?
Yes, I will.
Have you met him?
Yes, I have.
And you think that you can work with him towards her best interest?
Yes, I think we work very well together, and I don't see a problem with that.
Do you think at this point in time it's in Indigo's best interest to have any contact with her mother?
No, I do not.
If the court ordered that Kaylee were to have no contact with Indigo, is that something you would respect and do your best to enforce?
Yes, I would.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams?
No question, Your Honor.
Ms. Archer?
No questions.
All right. Ms. Schulte, did you have any other witnesses?
I would briefly call Samuel Meza.
Ms. Schulte?
Mr. Meza, do you understand that we are asking today that Shelley and Gregory Patterson be named as Indigo's primary conservators?
Yes, I do understand.
And that you be named what is called a possessory conservator?
Yes.
Do you believe it is in your daughter's best interest to stay with her grandparents at this time?
Yes, at this time, yeah.
Do you believe that you can work together with them to coordinate any visitation with Indigo or do anything else that's needed in her best interest?
Yes, I do.
Are you currently working?
I am going to school full time right now.
Do you receive military benefits?
I do. I'm also receiving my post 9/11 GI Bill.
I'll pass the witness.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mesa, where do you currently live? City and state?
I live in Callahan, Colorado.
And where are you going to school?
I'm going to Intellitech
Okay.
College, Colorado Springs.
And you have visited Indigo, is that correct?
Yes, one time
And who did you go with to visit Indigo?
with my mother.
And how was that visit? How did it go?
It was a very good visit.
And you get along really well with the Pattersons?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so you have no objection to what the department is asking as far as the Pattersons being named primary conservator?
I have no objections. I was more hopeful in the future of taking her, but
But you're looking at trying to get your life in
Right.
order so that you can have more contact with her?
Yes.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Archer?
I have no questions.
All right. Ms. Schulte, did you have any other witnesses?
I have no other witnesses we addressed.
Thank you. Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
No witnesses. I rest, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, witnesses?
No witness, rest.
Thank you. Ms. Archer?
I have no witnesses. Rest.
All right then. All right, Ms. Archer, recommendations?
Yes, I would recommend that PMC go to placement Shelley and Gregory Patterson, that the parents are not terminated, but given possessory rights as Ms. Peterson would allow for visits.
Okay. All right. And Casa, anything to add?
I agree in principle, Your Honor. I have some concerns about Shelley Patterson having, or I'm sorry, excuse me, Kaylee Patterson having access in the future, but this seems to be the best for the moment.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Then based on what I've heard today, I do find that it's in the best interest of the child that Shelley and Gregory Patterson be named joint managing conservators. I will order that both Kaylee Patterson and Samuel Mesa be named permanent possessory conservators. I'll order that Miss Kaylee Patterson have no contact with the child. I guess I'll say until further court order. It'd be incumbent upon her to show that she's able to have any kind of contact. Until she does that, then there'll be no contact between Kaylee Patterson and Indigo. I'll order that Mr. Mesa's visitation with Indigo be as agreed to between the Pattersons, meaning Shelley and Gregory Patterson, and Mr. Mesa. I'm not going to set any child support today because I didn't hear enough to do so, and Mr. Patterson's apparently on some kind of disability, so mother's incarcerated, so I couldn't set hers today anyway. So, all right, I will dismiss the department and all other court-ordered relationships once all appellate and de novo periods have expired. Ms. Kincaid, Mr. Adams, if you would explain to your clients their de novo and their appellate rights. Since we have a final resolution in this case, there'll be no further hearing set. Mr. and Ms. Patterson, thank you for what you're doing. I don't know what we'd do if it weren't for grandparents. We'd be in a real pickle. So thank you for that. I know that Indigo is going to be in a good home. So,
Thank you.
all right, we will
This
stand
is
in
a
recess on this
continuation of
case.
the initial
For those of
permanency
you
hearing,
involved, I think maybe one or
which
two
we
of you.
began
I'll be back.
on June 10th, 2024. Ms. Gutierrez is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram's with us representing the child. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the mother. Ms. Lopez, who is with us, and Mr. McClendon is representing himself, and he is present. I don't have anyone in the waiting room. My notes indicate that Ms. Gutierrez had rested her case on June 10th. Therefore, Ms. Kincaid, we're to you. Do you have any witnesses to call?
Yes, Your Honor. May I briefly recall Miss
All
Angrini?
right, thank you. Ms. Kincaid?
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Since our hearing on Monday, which was, just a couple of days ago, have you received a copy of Miss Lopez's employment records?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so she is gainfully employed.
Yes.
Okay, have you received a copy of her anger management certification of completion?
Yes, I just received the last hearing that you sent to the court.
Okay, and have you received a copy of her alcohol awareness certification of completion?
From Senecor, I believe.
It was a recommendation that she complete that. Have you received that certification of completion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Gutierrez, did you have any further questions since we're reopened?
Yes, I do have. Well, you know what, Your Honor, no questions on this round.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
Mr. McClendon, do you have any other questions for her? You're muted, Mr. McClendon.
No, sir.
Okay. All right then. All right then. Ms. Kincaid, did you have any other witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to call my client, Ms.
All right,
Lopez.
thank you. Ms. Kincaid?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez, we're just going to kind of go through the service plan together and discuss the services that you've completed so far. One of the things that they request of you is that you maintain safe, stable housing. What city are you currently living in?
In Amarillo.
I'm sorry, you must have cut out. I didn't hear your answer, or I may be frozen.
Amarillo. Can you hear me?
I think I can now.
Okay, I live in Amarillo.
Amarillo, and are you in an apartment?
Yes.
Okay, have you allowed Nerdy to come and visit your house?
Yes.
Okay. You were requested to do a parenting class. Have you completed your parenting class?
Yes.
Okay, you were asked to attend an OSAR. You did your OSAR, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they asked you to complete outpatient?
Yes, and I did that.
And you've completed that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you were ordered to drug screen for the department. Have you drug screened for the department when requested?
Yes.
Okay. You were ordered to complete individual counseling with Jennings Counseling, is that correct?
Yes.
And have you completed that?
Yes.
You were ordered to attend rational behavior therapy class. Have you completed that?
Yes.
Okay, you were asked to do a mental health assessment through TPC. Have you completed that?
Yes.
And they recommended that you attend anger management and alcohol awareness. Is that correct?
Yes.
Have you attended both of those classes?
Yes.
And have you provided a copy of the certification of completion to me?
Yes. And okay.
Okay. And you're ordered to maintain regular contact with your caseworker. Have you done that?
Yes.
Okay. And you were required to attend a WAVE program. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. But whenever you went to the WAVE program, they referred you out to a domestic violence support group. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you are attending that domestic violence support group. Is that correct?
Yes.
You began attending that in April. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've regularly attended that since April until now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now there are some things that we want to make sure the court is aware of. Are you in a relationship with Mr. McClendon?
No.
Do you have any intention of getting back into a relationship with Mr. McClendon?
No.
And does Mr. McClendon reside with you?
No.
Are you aware of where he lives? What city?
Yes.
What city is that?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
So he doesn't live in Amarillo, is that correct?
No, he does not.
Okay. Now you have a vehicle that Mr. McClendon used to drive, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of car is that?
A Kia.
Okay. And whenever you and Mr. McClendon lived together, he used to drive that car, is that correct?
Yes.
But since you guys are no longer in a relationship, he has returned that vehicle to you, is that correct?
Yes.
And so that vehicle can be found outside of your apartment, is that correct?
Yes.
But that's not because Mr. McClendon is at your house, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there have been instances if Mr. McClendon is in town where you will assist in transporting him to a visit.
Yes.
Okay. And is it your testimony today that Mr. McClendon does not live with you and you are not in a relationship with him?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Gutierrez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Lopez, was Mr. McClendon at your home on the evening of June 1st, 2024?
No.
Was he in your home on the evening of June 2nd, 2024?
No.
And is your apartment on?
Yes.
And were the cops called to your apartment that evening?
Yes.
What were they called for?
Because my brothers had came over here and broke into my home.
And was Mr. McClendon present?
No.
And so if there's a police report that indicates that he was, what would you say to that?
I didn't know he was here, but I know for a fact he wasn't at my apartment.
Did you call the police on March 28th of 2024?
Yes.
And why did you call them on March 28th of 2024?
I don't exactly recall, but I've called them multiple times.
And if this sensitive report from March 28th, 2024 indicated that you called them because your child's window had been broken in their bedroom, would that ring any bells?
That was at my previous apartment that I stayed at, and I have moved from that apartment complex.
Okay. Did you also claim to the police that you believed Mr. McClendon had broken that window?
Yes, I did, but there wasn't no viable suspect.
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
The same.
And so it's your testimony today that Mr. McClendon was not in your apartment on June 2nd of 2024. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And that when the police were called that night, Mr. McClendon was not in the home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
All right, Mr. McClendon, any questions for Ms. Lopez?
Yes, sir. Ms. Lopez, at your previous apartment, when the child's window was busted, was there ever any viable indication that I was there or there on the scene?
No.
Was there ever any proven allegation of my guilt in the matter that you reported?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
You did contact me that day, right? About the matter?
Yes, I did.
to your knowledge at that time, did I have any knowledge of the incident at all?
Objection,
Nope.
explanation.
Okay.
Did I tell you that I knew about that incident at all to have any guilt in to begin with?
No, you said you wasn't aware of it.
All right. In June at your apartment, when you made a police report, were you aware that I was at your apartment complex?
No, I did not.
Are you aware of any laws that prevent me from being at your apartment complex if I was?
No.
Are you aware of any paperwork or documentation from a judge that says I couldn't be at your apartment complex if I was?
No.
Was it okay with you after being attacked that I showed up to your apartment in the event that police were called?
Yeah, you were standing outside. You never came in.
Is it possible that no, strike that. Did you ever tell anybody that night that I came in?
No.
And did you write an affidavit saying that I was inside your apartment that night?
No.
And do you know of anyone who did write an affidavit saying I was in your apartment that night or anything?
Possibly my brothers who broke down my door.
Oh,
Okay, she needs to repeat that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Repeat your answer, Ms. Lopez.
I said possibly my brothers who kicked down my door.
When they kicked down your door, who were they looking for?
You.
And in the process, you were hurt. Is that correct?
Yes, I was.
And you had visible bruises and ailments that you could show the officers that night?
Yes.
Were you scared that night?
Yes, because they weren't coming for me.
And if not for any documentation that says I couldn't be there, would you have rather I been there that night?
Kind of, so they could have found you instead of me by myself.
Okay. Could you possibly have become confused in any matter where you might have written that down somewhere, that you might need to clear up?
No.
Okay. Are you aware of a family plan that I submitted to Amy Bailey to have submitted to NERTI?
Yes.
And I was at the CPS offices when I wrote that. Were you aware of that?
No.
Okay, so let me ask you, how were you aware that I gave that family plan to Amy? So as
Because me
to
and your mother accosted you.
Okay. You accosted me where?
At the CPS office.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm going to ask for clarification on those two questions. I believe Ms. Lopez's response was when his mother accosted her, and then Mr. McClendon's subsequent question was when he accosted her. So I request clarification just in those two questions.
Well, my question was, where did she and my mother accost me at?
Okay, thank you for clarifying, Mr. McClendon.
Okay, next question.
Do you remember a conversation directly following one of our visits that you assisted me in transportation on? A conversation with NERTI about my family plan that I submitted this day when you accosted me?
Yes.
And Ms. NERTI told me that it was not her duty to even consider any family plan that I submitted. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Your Honor, I object to hearsay.
Rule.
Do you recall any subsequent or following conversations, attempted conversations with Ms. NERTI about my family plan?
Multiple.
Has Ms. NERTI ever contacted you concerning my family plan?
Yes, and other matters about you.
Have you then iterated to Ms. NERTI that you would not like to be communicated with about my affairs in this court order?
Yes.
Have you been privileged to another caseworker telling NERTI that it is not the home visit was not to talk about me?
Yes.
Do you remember having to remind Nerty to stop talking about me during this home visit?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to hearsay. I mean, it sounds like some random caseworker, but without a name. I don't know if that's an actual St. Francis caseworker.
Okay, sustained.
Okay. Was there a St. Francis caseworker that come to your house accompanying Nerty
Yes, it's a permanency
for a home
specialist.
visit, correct?
Y'all don't talk over each other.
I'm sorry. For a home visit, or is that correct?
Yes, it was a permanent specialist.
Did the permanency specialist tell Nerty that she shouldn't be talking about me during this visit?
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object unless they have a name.
It's just, I mean, that's hearsay. No matter who it is, it's hearsay. So sustained.
Were you aware that witnessing someone say something was hearsay?
No.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. That's
I
not a
don't
relevant question for my client.
I don't even know what question it is, but it's sustained. It's not relevant.
Did you feel comfortable in this visit?
No, not at the one at my new apartment.
Did you feel comfortable in the visit where Nerty continued to speak about me?
No.
Do you feel comfortable when Nerty calls you to ask you what things I've completed after the fact?
No, because I have no idea.
Has Nerty continued to question you about me most every time she calls you?
Yes.
No further questions.
And anybody have follow-ups from Ms. Lopez?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Lopez, you called the police in March regarding a window being broken. Is that correct?
Yes, that was at my old apartment complex.
Okay, and you called because you thought Mr. McClendon attempted to break into your apartment. Is that correct?
Yes, it was basically an assumption because I wasn't home and I came home with my windows broken.
Ms. Lopez, that's a yes or no question. You've answered yes, so you don't need to expound on your answers.
Okay.
Okay, so you were trying to protect yourself in that situation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and in the June incident where the police were called, had you invited Mr. McClendon to your home?
No.
Okay, so he was there, but not by your invitation?
No, not by my invitation.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Gutierrez, you had other questions?
No, Your Honor, but the department offers petitioner's exhibit number 1. It has been emailed to all parties as well as to Ms. Galvan.
What is it?
It is police incident report from June 2nd of 2024 involving both Alyssa Lopez and Jonathan McClendon at an apartment on Bell Street.
All right, objections?
Your Honor, I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I would need a minute.
Okay.
And how do I get this document?
Mr. McClendon, I forwarded it to the email you provided to the court reporter during the hearing on June 10th.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have any objections, Your Honor.
All right, are there any other objections to petitioner's 1? All right, then petitioner's exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for this witness.
All right, Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right, Mr. McClendon, any other further questions?
Ms. Lopez, I'll ask you again. Was there anyone that you might have, maybe not to your recollection, if you take a second to think about it, is there anyone you might have told that night that I was inside of your apartment?
No, I didn't tell anyone. I did tell my brother.
No, Ms. Lopez, again, just answer the question. You don't have to expound on your answers.
Okay, thank you.
Did you write an affidavit that night?
No.
Officers? Okay. Were you aware that I did?
No.
Okay. Kind of shaky on how to proceed with this, and I don't know where it's going to take me, but were you aware that I have made accommodations and am paying for an apartment in your vicinity?
No, I did not.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, then. Ms. Kincaid, did you have other witnesses?
I don't, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ingram, do you have witnesses?
No witnesses.
All right, Mr. McClendon, do you have witnesses?
No witnesses.
All right, Mr. McClendon, did you want to testify anything further?
Yes, I do.
Okay, if you'd raise your right hand, please. You swear the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir, I do.
All right, you can tell me what you want to tell me.
Your Honor, I expediently after you ordered me to give a number for Miss Nurse.
Mr. McClendon,
I'm advised.
I know this is being broadcast on YouTube
I'm
today.
advised.
Probably don't want to give your phone number out.
Okay. With all due respect, if I gave it to y'all, everybody else could gladly have it. But after giving Miss Nerthy this number, I expediently submitted an identical family plan, accepted both by CPS and St. Francis, according to all websites. I was told by Miss Nerthy that it was not her duty to look into that family plan. If I did not sign her family plan, she was going to simply tell the judge that I was being uncooperative. And this happened on 3 separate occasions. When I submitted it to her, when I then in turn submitted it to the CPS offices where I was accosted by my mother and Miss Lopez, and then when I had it submitted to Venice because nothing was being done about it. At which time I was told by Venice, the supervisor, Nerthy's supervisor, that she didn't work for me and she would not work for me. And she would not give any messages to Nerthy, as I was ordered to speak with Nerthy and only Nerthy. At which time I informed Miss Venice that I was very intimidated by Miss Nerthy, as I was receiving several threats to do with the being able to see my kids or having rights to my kids months before this was even a consideration of rights being taken from me or even me being informed of such. Also, I have been informed by Miss Lopez that constantly, at least weekly, she receives a call from Miss Nerthy asking about me, in which turn I call Nerthy every time and ask Nerthy what the issues are she wishes to speak with me. I get this response from Nerthy: Mr. McClendon, I cannot contact you and you will not contact me. It is not my duty to re-inform you of things I've spoken with Miss Lopez on. These things are directly related to my finishing the family plan that you guys asked me to finish. These things are directly related to me being able to provide a safe well-being for my children. I have had a visit taken from me by Nerthy, and I've been lied to about the reason my visit was taken. I believe the supervisor of my visit, Miss Andrea, she was incapacitated one time and could not make travel arrangements. Nerthy lied to me and said that there was something I'd done that provided concern for them and that I was not going to have a visit. So I wrote you. When I wrote you, Judge, immediately Nerthy called me with a makeup visit for the Monday following that weekend. I asked that Nerthy document this both to her supervisor and you. It never was done. So I contacted her supervisor and asked why this was never done. This is when I received the notice that she would not speak with me at all. So in return, I told her that when I spoke with Nerthy, I would like to have a private conversation. I would like to have nobody in the room, and my privacy rights they provided me that opportunity. About halfway through my conversation, I heard Miss Venice asking me, Mr. McClendon, will you repeat that? I didn't get what you said. And so I asked her if we could terminate the conversation. They were fine with it. I've never been contacted by Nerthy or Venice since regarding to anything. I have made several reports to the injuries of my child. Jolice's hands were worn down to the second dermis, and he informed me that he was held down in his placement. I asked for that to be reported. Nerthy refused to report this. Ms. Lopez had to then turn around and make a report. My mother had to then go to the CPS offices and make a big disturbance before this was reported. Jolice also informed me that there's a child in placement that repeatedly rams his toy remote control motorcycle into my son's private parts, into his genitalia. And he's wondering why. I asked for this to report it. That report was not made. It took for my mother and my father to make a big disturbance before that report was made. Also, in placement, Jolice was pushed off of a fireplace and received stitches in the back of his head. He was coerced, and this is not hearsay. I was listening to the video call by way of conference call.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time to the details of how Jolice may or may not have been injured. I don't know how Mr. McClendon found out of who did what. I think maybe if he added those details, I might withdraw my objection, Your Honor.
Yeah. Well, Mr. McClendon, you weren't there when Jolice was injured, if Jolice was injured, were you?
No.
Okay, so how did you find out? Let's take him. How did you find out about Jolice's hands being worn and he being held down?
Well, I noticed it when I got to the visit, and I started recording immediately to take documentation.
I'm not through. So did Jolice tell you that he'd been held down?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Then how did you learn that he'd been pushed off of a fireplace?
Jolice told me after being coerced to lie about it by Miss Nerthy
I
during
didn't
the
ask you
time.
that. I just asked you who told you, and you said Jaleese. Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. Jaleese is a party to this lawsuit, so what he says is admissible. So go ahead.
Okay, so yes, Jaleese informed me that a child named Lane approached him from behind secretly and whispered in his ear and pushed him in his loin area. This will be behind the back, below the shoulder blades. And he fell off of the fireplace, subsequently having to go and get stitches put in his head. We were not informed of such until the Monday following the weekend, and this happened on a Friday morning.
Let me ask you, did Jaleese tell you who held him down?
The name of the staff always changes, so I'm going to say that I don't recall which one of the staff members she said.
That's good enough answer. Go ahead.
But yeah, where was I at? I asked Jaleese, did anyone tell him to tell me that he fell? And he said yes. He was then chided by Miss Nerthy, saying, "Don't lie, don't lie." And so Jaleese said to me, "I'm not lying. Lane scared me." So I made a report about that, because and come to find out.
You made a report to who?
I made a report to Miss Venice. And my mother and my father both called the CPS offices. I believe Harry Ingram, but I'm not privileged to that information.
Mr. McClendon, have you reported any of this to the police?
No, sir, I haven't.
Why's that?
To be honest, my demeanor has not been the most favorable of demeanors, and I feared I wouldn't be believed. So I asked my family members to join me in making these reports so as to better corroborate what I was seeing.
Okay, so are you telling me your family members have reported it to police?
No.
Why not? This is you're describing incidents of assault on your child. Why do you not report it to the police?
Well, I don't know, Your Honor. I do have text messages from myself to Nerthy stating that I do want to speak with police on the issues, both the issues with my children and when Danielle hit me, and those things were refused to me. No, not even responses to me. So I don't know. I became frustrated, and I'm going to be honest. I just don't know. I was waiting for these hearings so that I could speak with you. I remember telling you one time that I would continue taking my chidings from you. And I don't know if that played some type of role in me making a judgment of such and not contacting police. I didn't know if that was something that was even possible for me to do with this being a CPS case. And I didn't know if it would affect it at all. If there could be criminal charges brought against these people, seeing as my children are wards of the state right now. I just was not properly informed.
Let me just, I said I can't give you legal advice, but I can tell you this. Anybody at any time, regardless of whether a CPS case is involved or any kind of case is involved, anytime there's an assault on your child, you have the right to report that to the police and have them investigate it. So I'm telling you that for sure.
Okay, and yes, sir. So my testimony today is for the fact that I asked Nerthy to make documentation of these things directly to you and in text message.
Your Honor, I'm going to object at this time. Nerthy, it's not her obligation to report these things to the court. If Mr. McClendon does not understand how to get that evidence or report to the court on his own, then I again request that he be admonished of his right to an attorney.
Ms. Gutierrez, that ship has sailed. I've told him so many times. But Mr. McClendon, Nerthy can't send anything to me. It has to come out in court, and that's ex parte. If any party talks to me, I can't talk to anybody unless every party is there. And here's what's being said to me. So that's not going to happen. I can tell you that.
Yes, sir. Less than 2 minutes ago, I just said I was waiting on these hearings as I assumed that she documented these things as I asked her so that she can convey them to you in these hearings, which has never happened. And of course, being as frustrated as I've been trying to weasel my way through this representing myself thing, these are things that I often forget to readdress when we're in these hearings. Today, I made sure of not to do that. I made sure to bring them up. The fact that I asked her to document these things, as she's the supervisor in the visitation, So when I tell her these things, I'm assuming she's typing them down as I'm asking her so that when we come to court, we can present them to you.
And Your Honor,
that has not happened.
I object to this just because it's not Nerthy's job to be a transcriber for Mr. McClendon and her quote unquote documenting all of his statements. I think in a sense, he's wanting her to adopt those statements, and that does not leave room for her own individual and professional opinion and interpretation of events.
I object as well to what she just said. I don't even know how that goes. I'm not going to laugh at myself. I don't know how to say this, but my testimony is that.
Your Honor, did you take a break? Hold on, Mr. McClendon. Did the judge take a break?
I think so.
Okay, Your Honor.
Yes, I did. Yes, I said yes. I need a break. I'm on break.
Get everybody
All
back.
right.
All right, Mr. McClendon, go ahead.
My testimony today is that I've only ever asked Nerthy to do what Nerthy told me it was her duty to do. I've only done that at the request of Miss Nerthy. I do have that in text message, black and white, from Miss Nerthy, requesting that I give her my issues and concerns so that she would document them to you. This is in text message and in vocal fashion from Nerthy in conversation. That hasn't happened, so I'm addressing it in court today. When I May 17th, when I was attacked by Miss Danielle, I texted Miss Nerthy, I want to press charges. What are we doing about this? Miss Nerthy responded to me, thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
Your Honor, may I get a clarification? I don't know who Danielle is.
I don't need
The caseworker that was supervising my visit on May 17th, I'm sorry, named Danielle Graham, was in our last hearing, testified of the things that were uncomfortably said or acted out in my visit on May 17th that led to the stripping of my visitation rights. That Danielle Graham placed her hands on me that day, moving me more than 10 feet from my standing ground, blockading me from my son that she was holding down in a chair.
And did you report to the police?
No, I didn't.
Okay, go on.
Like I said, the supervisors were on the phone. Privileged to the incident, we directly contacted our case manager and allowed her to be privileged to what happened, and to be informed of what the next step might be cordially. This is still a very testy situation for me. I'm still very confused in this situation about what I might do safely in order to still be involved in my children's life and not be, portrayed as, the way I've been portrayed the whole time, this whole year. I'm very scared of dealing with Miss Nerthy at any turn because of her determination to undermine any of the things I say or activities I'm taking toward the betterment of the safety and environment for my children.
Your Honor, I object to speculation.
How? Okay. I've been threatened by Nerthy several times, and I've made 4 requests to have someone more feasible to speak with and communicate with and work with. I have also reached out to Miss Danielle Graham for help in the matter of finishing and finalizing my family plan that Nerthy refuses to consider because I will not sign the one she sent me. I have received threats from Miss Nerthy through Alyssa Lopez. Miss Nerthy has called Alyssa Lopez and threatened Miss Lopez's right to see her kids again for certain activities she may or may not allow me to take part in. Nerthy does not have a private detective's license. I have been followed by Nerthy 3 times. She doesn't know that I saw her, but I'm testifying in court today that I have saw Nerthy follow me 3 times to both private residential areas and public residential areas. And she has transferred that information both to my mother and Alyssa's mother, where I was at and what she speculated that I was doing. Miss Nerthy continually surfs my Facebook page and makes reports to Miss Lopez what's happening on my Facebook page. There is circulation of my activities in a white mask on Facebook throughout the department, throughout St. Francis Department. Several, including Danielle Graham, have told me herself that Nerthy shared with them my activities in my made-up persona and my digital creation. This is what very much intimidates me of Miss Nerthy. The prowess in which she pursues me gives her the ability to create a scenario that may or might not exist. My testimony today is that I have not been given adequate concern, consideration, or opportunity to complete the orders of the judge. Not by Miss Nerthy, not by Miss Venice, not by Kathy Jones. I haven't even been privileged to speak to Harry Ingram or anyone else in the department for that matter. And I will say again, since the judge, you did bring this to my my attention. I will say I should have contacted police. But trying to remain as cordial as I can before the court affected that decision. That's my testimony today.
Okay. And I'll point out one thing that I pointed out before, but so you understand, Mr. Ingram can't talk to you either unless all the parties are there. So,
yes, sir. I contacted Miss Nerthy and I asked for a sit down of that nature 3 times.
Okay. Right. Okay, then, Ms. Gutierrez, do you have any questions for Mr. McClendon?
I do have a couple. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McClendon, you said that you recently got an apartment in the same complex as Alyssa. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you, is that on a lease?
What do you mean?
Did you sign a lease for that apartment?
I plead fifth.
Next question, Ms. Gutierrez. He's pled the fifth.
Mr. McClendon, you talked about being assaulted by Alyssa and by your mother. Did I get that information correct?
No, ma'am. Accosted.
Could you please explain what you mean by accosted?
Approached in an unknown fashion.
And that was by Ms. Lopez and by your mother, Mr. McClendon?
Yes, unbeknownst to me, after I told them what happened with Jolie's, they decided to come up and make an inquiry of their own at the CPS offices. They didn't know I was there.
And what happened that you considered that them accosting you, Mr. McClendon?
They didn't inform me that they were coming. I was in there in a heated conversation with the clerk and turned around and they were there. It was kind of startling.
And did that upset you?
No, it disappointed me. I thought they would let me know that they were coming. Maybe I could have waited to start speaking. I'm not the best of speakers. I would have probably let them speak.
And you agree that your Facebook page is public, correct?
No.
It's not public?
No.
How is it not public, sir?
It's not. I make every post. There's a setting on there that you will be able to show who can see these things. And I always put private.
He cut out. Sorry.
You're cutting out. You'll have to, Mr. McClendon, you'll have to start your answer again. The court reporter didn't
Okay,
hear.
there is a privacy setting that you can set to post for each post. And I always set it to private except for friends. So it is my suspicion, this is speculation, that Ms. Nerthy has befriended me under a faux account.
So it is your testimony today that your Facebook page is not public. Is that correct?
He's asked and answered that for the best he can. So let's move on.
Okay. Let's see here. Now you were present for the status hearing in this case, correct, Mr. McClendon?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you recall that the court made orders on that day?
What orders?
The court signed a status hearing order on that day. Do you recall that status hearing?
Signed a status? I'm not understanding what you're asking me.
Okay, I'll withdraw the question and ask a different one. Mr. McClendon, do you understand that your service plan was made in order of the court at that status hearing?
No, I didn't.
Your Honor, we asked the court to take judicial notice of the status hearing order from the February 5th of 2024 hearing.
So
I never read that.
We also request that the court take judicial notice that Respondent Jonathan Coley McClendon was present for that hearing.
So noted.
Mr. McClendon, do you understand that the services were made in order of that and that will override your own created service plan?
No, I didn't understand that. And I asked such and was not informed of it.
Well, let me interrupt you, Ms. Gutierrez. Mr. McClendon, I'm going to tell you again exactly what I told you on the day of the status hearing. The orders that are contained in your service plan that was presented to me, I made those a court order. That means I'm ordering you to complete those services. I told you that on that day and you said you understood it. But do you understand it now that every one of those services that's in your service plan is an order of this court that you have to complete?
Yes, sir. But in lieu of the fact that that day, it had not even come out my exoneration by Officer Joel Hodges. In lieu of that fact, I'm sorry, I'm still testifying that though. I totally disregarded that.
I want you to tell me that you understand all those services in your service plan are an order of this court. And if you don't complete those services, your parental rights can be altered or your parental rights can be completely terminated. Do you understand that that's what I admonished you and that's the law?
Okay, yes, I understand. Now that iteration
I'm going to move on with my questioning. Mr. McClendon, I have more questions, sir. In regards to your service plan, do you have a copy of the service plan?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what services you have completed on that service plan?
No.
You can't, or you haven't completed any. Can you clarify for me?
I can't. I plead the fifth.
Now, Mr. McClendon, did you call police or have an interaction with Amarillo Police Department on March 30th of 2024?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me what the incident might have been about?
It looks like it says caller was Jonathan McClendon, stating that he was at the hospital earlier, and when he left, he was followed and the suspects shot at him. Jonathan later told me that he saw a male get out of the vehicle with something in his hands and heard 2 loud pops. He claimed that the mother of his children and the male he was with kept harassing him. The female was identified as Alyssa Lopez. Do you recall making that report, Mr. McClendon?
I recall making a similar report.
Now, Mr. McClendon, going back to the threats that you state NERTI has made, can you please explain what those threats have been?
Which time are you asking me about?
I would say maybe the most significant ones in your opinion, sir.
The most significant threats that I have been made was that I was not going to be able to see my children. And if I attempted to, they were going to be taken from Alyssa permanently.
Now, you understand that there are certain requirements, certain expectations that you have to meet by court order. Is that correct?
Yes, and understanding of the words have to be meaning future activity in which I still have an opportunity to complete such.
Okay. Now you understand that the consequences have been explained to you, that not completing certain tasks, including addressing the domestic violence, the anger, those things, can and may result in you not being able to see your kids. Do you understand that concept, Mr. McClendon?
No.
So is it your opinion that you should be able to have your kids back without addressing any of the issues involved with the removal?
It is my opinion that if I had attained counsel and paid counsel, that would have already been established.
Do you understand that you have the right to an attorney?
Yes.
And you can apply for a court-appointed attorney, Mr. McClendon. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Ms. Gutierrez, that's my job.
Yes, Your Honor. I passed the witness.
I've admonished him several times, so that's my job to do that.
Thank you, Your Honor. I apologize.
Okay. All right. Ms. Kincaid, questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to clarify, the incident involving Ms. Lopez addressing you after the visit with Jolise, she never physically touched you.
Huh?
She never physically touched you at that visit or after that visit.
Who?
Ms. Lopez.
Ms. Lopez never physically touched me.
Okay, so she just showed up and you were upset by that.
No, I never said I was upset by that. I said I was disappointed not knowing that they were coming, as they might have had a better talking experience than I did.
Okay, well, you said she accosted you, so I'm just trying to figure out what that means to you.
Well, that's just, okay, again, I'll explain that. When someone approaches you rapidly and you don't know about it, it is called being accosted.
Okay. Now, involving the incident that you said involving leaving the hospital and potentially being shot at, did you make that report?
I plead the fifth.
Well, you're the one that called the police.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
You did.
When did you move into the apartment complex near Miss Lopez?
I plead the fifth.
Did you bring it to the department's attention that you had moved to Amarillo?
I didn't move to Amarillo. I purchased an accommodation in Amarillo.
Okay, so where do you live?
I live at 1200 Dickerson South.
No, don't get this specific. I'm sorry, Your Honor. What city and state?
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
How long have you been living in Albuquerque?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Are you in a relationship with Miss Lopez?
I also object to that question on basis on relevance.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I plead the fifth.
Pass the witness, Your Honor. I don't know.
Mr. Ingram?
No questions.
All right. Anyone have follow-ups for Mr. McClendon?
I do not, Your Honor. I do want to call Ms. Agraini as a rebuttal witness.
Okay. All right. This is as good a time as any. Mr. McClendon, I have to do this at every hearing. You keep saying that if you had an attorney, this wouldn't be happening. You understand, again, you have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, you have the right to apply to the court to see if you're entitled to a court-appointed attorney at no cost to you. Do you understand that right?
I understand that I am affording the court an opportunity to be integral while I refuse that right.
I need an answer. Do you understand that you have the right to ask that I consider whether or not
The answer was the first two.
At no cost to you?
My answer was the first two words. I understand
All right, thank you. That's what I have to do at every hearing, so. All right, Miss Gutierrez, you wanted to call Nerdy again, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ma'am, I think I swore you today too, so did I?
Yes.
Okay, all right, you're still under oath. So Miss Gutierrez?
Thank you, Your Honor. Nerdy, Mr. McClendon testified that Jolise in placement was being hurt by another child, by the child hitting Jolise's genitals with a toy. Can you explain to us what happened with that complaint?
Yeah, I received the INR staffing
What's that mean?
incident report
Okay.
from the placement.
And I'm going to stop you right there, Nerdy.
Yes.
When you say there's an INR staffing, does that mean that an intake was made to DFPS?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please continue your answer.
And then I staffed with my supervisor, my director also about this incident. And then also the same day I went to visit Jolise. So after the incident, they took him to the emergency room and he hurt the back, it has stitches. And then also.
Nerdy, I'm going to clarify my question because I don't believe you're answering the question that I asked. Your Honor, so I object to I guess narrative at this point. Nerdy, I am asking specifically about the incident, the complaint about Jolise being hit in the genitals with toys. I am not asking about any other incident at this time. Can you please tell me what happened with the allegations of another child in placement hitting Jolise in the genitals with a toy?
Yes, I received that, that Jolise was hit by a motorcycle or like a bicycle that hit the genital area. So I went to the placement and then we talked about it. And then the house parents told me that, oh yeah, that was one of the roommates that Jolise was in, Lane. They played together. And then I said, Jolise was hit by a motorcycle. And then the placement said, there's no motorcycle in this area that's good hitting Jolise's genital. So I asked Jolise and I said, Jolise, were you hurt? Somebody hurt you with the motorcycle? And then she said, yes, my roommate was hurting me with motorcycle. Oh, can you show me where the motorcycle was? And he grabbed my hand and took him to his room and showed me it was a mini motorcycle, like this small, this size, very tiny. It's a toy. And they're playing on the ground. And I don't know, maybe it was like a motorcycle that was in a battery. So it was just hit him right there, close to the genital, but it's not hurting him. It's just, I'm shocked. We just playing. That's what he said.
I object to that last statement. You said it wasn't hurting him. That's not speculation.
The thing, that is speculation. You're right, Mr. McClendon.
Now, Nerdy, did Jolise himself state that it didn't hurt him?
Yes, he said that.
Now, under those facts, did any intake need to be made in regards to the incident with the toy?
That wasn't made because we talked about it and it was just a small, tiny little motorcycle.
I
and
object
it wasn't.
That's opinionated. That's not fact.
Your Honor, she saw the toy herself and she's explaining why an incident report was not made.
I purchased the toy.
Excuse me. The question was there an incident report made? And she said no, and then she's expounding on it, and that's all she needs to do is answer yes or no.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Nerdy, why was the report not made?
It was just a tiny little motorcycle, and they're just playing a game. That's what.
Now, the next incident that Mr. McClendon mentioned, let me take a look at my notes. Let's see here. That Jolise was injured when another child pushed him off a fireplace. Do you recall that incident?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what happened in that incident?
That was, we called, I think the placement called the hotline and reported that incident. And so we have an INR staffing for that with my supervisor and my director.
Okay.
And then
in that INR staffing, that's like an information staffing between the caseworker for St. Francis and DFPS. Is that correct?
And it's with the supervisor and the director of St. Francis.
Okay. And in that staffing, what was determined?
That would actually, after we were notified that the placement already took Jolise to the emergency room and have them treated, that taken care of.
Now, what is your understanding of how Jolise got injured that day.
Yes, the placement told me, and I will follow up with the placement, and they told me that Jolise was trying to jump into the fireplace a couple of times and have been warned several times to not jump to the fireplace. So he's been warned for 3 times. Jolise, do not jump on the fireplace because you can fall. And then suddenly, and there's a lot of kids that time, that was before dinner time. And they were playing, and then suddenly, I think, like what Jolise told me, Lane was whispering in his ear and he's shocked, so that's why he fell. That's what he told me after I follow up at the placement.
So you said Elaine, is that another child in the placement?
Yes.
And when you said she shocked him, do you mean like a static electricity shock?
And no, just like whispering on his ear, and he got shocked and then he fell. That's what Jolise told me.
You mean he got startled? Is that what you mean by?
Startled, yeah. Yes.
Were there any findings made against the placement for this incident?
No.
And you said that Jolise was taken to the hospital. Did he get stitches?
Yes.
And did placement follow up with any appointments afterwards to continue to care for that wound?
Yes.
Now, Nerti, Mr. McClendon has mentioned several times that you have threatened him. Have you made attempts to explain to him the consequences of him not completing services?
Yes.
And did those consequences include reminding him that he could lose visitation or lose his kids?
Yes.
And is it your intent to threaten Mr. McClendon?
No.
Are you rather just informing him, hoping that he'll get those things done?
Yes.
And is it also your job to attempt to engage parents in services?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it also your job to attempt to locate parents?
Yes.
And have you made scratch that? I think you testified about making attempts to contact on the 10th. So I pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Kincaid. Any questions for her?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram.
No questions.
Mr. McClendon, any questions?
Yes, sir. Ms. Nerthy, on the day of the incident, when Jolise was startled and ended up coming down from the fireplace, however, do you recall whether there was any staff in the area at the time of his injury?
I was not there, so I don't know.
Do you recall me asking you this question when you informed me of the incident?
You did not call me on the day of the incident. No.
I didn't say that. I asked, did you recall me asking you when you called me to inform me of the incident?
No.
Was there any staff? Not were you there? Was there any staff in the immediate proximity of my child when he fell from the fireplace?
Yes. According to the report, yes.
According to the report, okay. All right. How many staff members were present?
It was reported house parents, so there's got to be 2.
There got to be 2. So, how many children were in that area at the time?
I don't know, sir.
Okay. How close were either of those house parents in proximity to my child when he fell?
They were in the same room, living room.
They were in the same room. So it's correct. They were in the same room and allowed him, you said 3 or 4 attempts to jump in the fireplace?
Oh no, he was warned by the house parents not to jump in the fireplace 3 times.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. McClendon. Are you testifying that he was trying to jump into a fireplace or just jump off of the fireplace?
So he climbed to the fireplace, sir. And then the house parents warned me, do not climb to the fireplace because it's higher and then you can fall.
Okay.
So do not climb 3 times.
He was warned not to climb on the fireplace. He wasn't trying to jump into a fireplace, was he?
No.
Okay. Mr. McClendon, go ahead.
Okay. How many other children, if any, were warned not to jump off the fireplace?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance.
Sustained.
Were there any other children that were warned against jumping on the fireplace?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance. I don't understand how this pertains to Jolie specifically having an accident.
Thank
Hmm. Was Lane on the fireplace as well when he startled Jolie's?
I don't know where he was.
Okay. Miss Nerthy, if you don't know where Lane was, how can you be sure of the proximity of the two house parents?
It was in the report, sir.
So it wasn't in the report where Lane was?
No.
Your Honor, I object to relevance again.
Lane was the one that startled him. Why wasn't it reported where he was at?
The report was not because Lane was startled him. The report was because Jolie fell from the, and it's an incident report of an accident.
That's my question. Why wasn't it reported that he was startled, touched, whispered to by Lane?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to compound question. He said startled, touched, whispered to, all in the same sentence.
We're going to call it startled, not touched. We're going to call it startled. So you can ask your question with regard to startling.
Did Jolie tell you that he was touched by Lane?
You're cutting out.
He whispered in his ear?
You cut out. You're going to have to ask that question again.
Did Jolie tell you that Lane touched him in the rib area when he whispered in his ear?
No.
Okay. Is it a common practice to let the children in the placement play around the fireplace area?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She's testified several times that Jolise was warned not to be on the fireplace.
Overruled. The question is it common practice that they're allowed to play on the fireplace?
The fireplace was located in the living room. So they were watching TV in the living room. So.
Is there not a gated affair, something similar to what you told me I would need when I received my children back? Is there not a gated affair around this fireplace area?
A gated, I don't understand. Like you have to close the fireplace?
My house. Let me clarify. When you came to my house on 5222nd Roy Drive, it was spoken about my fireplace being a safety issue for the children. You informed me that I might need to get a gate or something to go around that in the event that my children will return to me. Is there one present at placement around that fireplace?
Yes, there is, just to cover the fireplace, yes.
But no gate to keep them out of the general area of the fireplace?
No.
Have there been any other incident reports involving children having accidents at the fireplace?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
Okay. Did you contact police after
I can't hear.
hearing of this incident?
You're going to have to start over. You're cutting out.
Did you contact law?
You're cutting out.
Did you contact law enforcement about this incident?
It was already contacted.
Did you contact law enforcement?
No.
Was it not in your interest to explore that being a possibility that Jolise was pushed or startled to the point of involuntary falling?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to speculation. Ms. Nerti has already testified what she was told by the child.
Okay.
Is the safety of my child your concern?
Yes.
After receiving stitches, after receiving a wound to the back of the head, was it not pertinent to you to conduct a further investigation on how that wound got there?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. She's already testified that there was an incident report made.
The thing, she's testified to what effort she made. So that she's testified to what she did. If it's not enough for you, it's not. But you can't ask that over and over.
Judge, you asked me 3 times if I contact the police department. I'm asking her the same amount of times.
All right, ask it all at once, Mr. McClendon. Let's move on.
I thought I couldn't compound my questions.
I said ask it all at once.
That would be compounding my question.
You want to ask it 3 times in a row. Ask it 3 times in a row, but let's move on.
All right. So one more time. During any of the incidents involving injuries to my son, did you contact law enforcement to have an investigation? Okay. Do you believe my son's injuries were severe?
No.
No cause for concern at all? Being the parent, you, in your opinion?
Mr. McClendon, I missed the first part of your question. Can you re-ask that, please?
So there was no cause for concern, considering considering me being the parent. In your opinion, no cause for my concern?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to form. I'm sorry, I can't understand what his question is.
Can't either.
Do you understand the question, Ms. Nartey?
No.
Did you feel I should be concerned about the injury to the back of his head?
Yes, I'm concerned.
Okay. Do you feel like I took the wrong approach addressing you about this injury and asking you to document it?
It's already been documented, sir.
No, I didn't ask that. I asked, did you feel like I took the right approach asking you to document this versus just contacting the police department right away?
No.
I'm going to object to speculation.
No, hold on. Steve answered it. Let's move on.
Shoot. Making this very difficult.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I heard words, but I wasn't able to understand anything.
He said it's making this very difficult.
Okay.
Well, what? No, I'm not frozen. I was, the time, what's the increment of time you have in which to inform us as the parents of a certain injury of this caliber? Like, how long do you have to inform us? How long does the investigation should it take?
You're muted.
Sorry, sir, can you repeat that question?
How long should the investigation have taken for, the incident?
It is right away after the incident.
Okay, so can you inform me why it was 3 days later before we were informed?
I informed Miss Lopez that after I visit Jolie's. Yes.
3 days later. Can you inform me why it was 3 days later that you informed her?
I believe I sent you a text message to the wrong phone number that you gave me.
That's not what he asked you. And that's not what he asked you. He wanted to know why it took 3 days to inform Miss Lopez about the injury.
I did not get the full information after that. So I wait until everybody give me information.
Okay.
So
and it was on the weekend when it happened.
So you testified that the investigation happens right away.
And I was informed on Monday. That's 3 days after that.
Okay, so that was the answer. The reason it took 3 days is because they didn't inform you of such. Does this cause concern in your mind for the supervising, of the safety of my children? That it took them 3 days to inform you, does that give you any concern for my child's safety?
It wasn't, that was on the weekend, sir. So I don't think everybody's working on the weekend. So that I wasn't aware until Monday.
I believe the incident happened on a Friday. Am I correct?
Yes, Friday evening. Well, after hours. Yes.
Okay. What time did the incident occur?
I believe it's after dinner time. About 7 to 8, something like that.
But you don't have a report where you can look at it and see what time that happened? So as to be clear, it wasn't. So as to be clear that it wasn't neglect for them to inform you, but maybe that timing was the reason.
Yeah, it's Friday evening at 7:30.
Okay. Have you ever contacted me after hours?
No, sir.
Have you ever contacted Miss Alyssa after hours?
She contacted me when she got arrested after hours. Yes.
No. Oh, well, that suffices. So it's safe to say that contact can be made after hours, according to your testimony just now.
Yes.
And correct, no contact was made this Friday evening to inform any of us, even yourself.
Yes.
I will reiterate my question. Does this add any concern for my son's safety in your mind?
It is a concern.
Okay. One more question. Did you ever inform me of Jaleesa's injury to the back of the head?
Sorry, sir? You're cutting out.
Did you ever inform me of Jaleesa's injury to the back of his head?
Yes,
When? And what? Well, when? Yeah,
that's
when?
on Monday.
Date, please.
Sorry?
The
Do you
date,
know the
please.
date? Do you know the date? What Monday? What was the date?
No, I don't, but it is the same day when I heard. Yeah.
If you don't know,
Yes,
you don't know. That's an answer.
Okay, and what method did you use to contact me about his injury?
Text message.
On what number?
I don't know.
How can we be sure that you contacted me if you can't be sure what number you contacted me at?
Mr. McClendon, that's my job to decide whether I believe the testimony or not. That's
okay. What number did the judge order you to contact me at?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. He's just publicizing his phone number again. Your
Well,
Honor.
that's up to him if he wants to do that. But let's be clear. I understand your question, Mr. McClendon. I did not instruct her to call a certain number before your son was injured. That only happened 2 days ago, where I asked you.
No. That happened when we talked about the family plan. We went back and forth. Nerdy wasn't able to contact me.
No. Listen, you're restricted to questions to her. What Ms. Gutierrez said. That's what a rebuttal witness is. You can't talk about a family plan again. We're talking about the injuries only.
They talked about a family plan, Judge.
Not on this recall. Not on the rebuttals. They did not.
All right. Dang, you know how to recraft my great distraction. I'll retract and go somewhere else. Do you know of any other injuries Jolie has received while in placement?
No.
So it's correct to say that you have no other documentation of any other injury?
No.
With Jolie's?
No, sir.
You don't do you recall Jolie's showed up to a visit with a gouge under his eye after traveling to Lubbock?
When was that?
You don't get to ask questions, ma'am. You just answer questions.
Supposedly, Andrea reported that Jolie's ran into a mirror during transportation to his visitation. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Did you conduct an incident report for that incident?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because it's just a little accident. Like it's just a bump. He did not see the mirror when he walked over. Andrea reported me.
Ms. Nerdy, you just testified that you did not remember that incident.
Yeah, I recall now about that. Yes.
Do you recall the injuries on Jolie's hands? The rub marks?
No, I don't for that.
So is it safe to say that there was no incident report done for the injuries to Jolie's knuckles?
No.
Okay. But you did inform me that Jolie's was going to have surgery for his ear, though, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering what was so much more important about him having surgery to correct an injury or ailment. What made that more important than you doing an incident report on these two injuries for Jolie?
What injuries?
The injuries to his hand and his head. I mean, to his hand and his face.
Mr. McClendon, she said she doesn't know anything about injuries to his hands. So that's just an irrelevant question. She doesn't know.
Well, earlier she testified that she recalled those injuries to his hands.
No, sir. No, she didn't.
All right. Well, I would like to have a disposition of such, sir, for Ms. Nerthy.
You would like to have a what?
I would like to have a disposition of her testimony.
Your Honor, I object and request that Mr. McClendon clarify what he's asking for.
I'm asking that maybe Miss Stacy Brown or whoever's the clerk who's typing this all in or whatever.
Do you want a copy of the transcript from today's hearing? Yes. Is that what you're asking me? Okay, that's not a disposition. I can't. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You
Okay,
have
I thought that was established. I'm representing myself.
Mr. McClendon, you have the right to ask for the transcript. You're going to have to pay for it since you.
I ain't tripping. I want to make sure you're not letting perjury stand in your court. I want a transcript.
Do you understand that the court has not found you to be indigent, so you have to pay for that transcript? But you're obviously entitled to it.
Yep, that man. I understand that you must have an opinion or an assumption that I am not able to afford this, but I am.
You haven't filled out paperwork saying you're indigent.
So I would like a transcript.
I've
Exactly. So I'm able to pay for it. I'm able to pay for it. So I would like a transcript. That's all I keep saying. Okay.
Let me clarify.
Last question, Miss Nerthy. If you are, according to your testimony, concerned for the safety of my children, why don't you know about these 2 injuries to his hands?
I was not in a supervised visit. I did not know about his hand. I did not see.
So you're testifying before I pay for this transcript. You are testifying that my mother did not inform you of these injuries during the visit.
Your Honor, that's not what she said. I object.
No. You can answer that question, Miss.
No, sir.
Okay. No further questions.
All right, then. Anything else from anyone? All right, then. Mr. Ingram, recommendations for today.
Continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue placement as is.
Okay. All right, give me just a minute.
Your Honor, I do have some requests, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
We do request that Mr. McClendon's visitation with the children continue to be suspended. We request that it be restarted upon his completion of rational behavior therapy, batter's intervention and prevention program, and a mental health assessment. We also ask that once his visits are restarted, that they be restarted therapeutically, Your Honor. We ask for drug screens for the parents to be ordered to urinalysis drug screen only. We also ask that Ms. Lopez be ordered to complete a domestic violence support group based on the recommendation from WAVE that Ms. Lopez testified about.
I believe she testified she's already in that.
She's already in it, Your Honor, but unfortunately parents don't always complete. And of course, we're hopeful that she will, but we are asking that it be made an order of the court.
You're just saying you want her to successfully complete the domestic violence group.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then. I'm going to continue the department's temporary managing conservator, continue the children's current placements. I'll order both parents to UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today at Care Express in Amarillo. Are you in, Mr. McClendon? Where are you?
Well, everyone knows I got to drive all these hours, but I just did it yesterday.
You did what yesterday?
Just drove all these hours to go urine analysis yesterday.
You're telling me you took a UA drug test yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, then forget it. Then Miss Lopez, have you taken a UA drug test since we were in court 2 days ago?
Your
Yes,
Honor,
I
she
just
just sent me a
sent it to us
message and said she did.
All right, you're both talking.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. She said that she went and screened yesterday. And also, just for clarification, the domestic violence support group doesn't have a completion. It's just an ongoing support class. So, I mean, there's not going to ever be a certificate or anything that she can provide to the department. So I don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to order something that couldn't be enforced even if I did. So, okay. All right. Let me take out the drug tests. All right, I'm going to order that Mr. McClendon's visitation will be suspended until he begins the rational behavior training and begins parenting and counseling. And then once he's begun those services, then his visitation will be reinstated virtually in a therapeutic setting. All right, that will conclude this hearing. Our next hearing in this case will be a permanency review. That will be on September 30th, 2024. That will be by Zoom, just like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 30th to see exactly what time that hearing will take place.
Your Honor, I have an additional request. I apologize for forgetting. We request a finding that the department has made reasonable efforts to reunify the family and continuing to engage parents or attempting to engage parents in services, attempting to communicate with parents and continuing
Ms. Gutierrez froze now. Oh. And now, Ms. Gutierrez, I heard the balance of what you said. I will make the findings that you've requested.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. McClendon, I'm going to put you in a breakout room with our court reporter today, Nori Galvan. She can tell you what you need to do if you want a copy of the transcript today, because that's between you and her.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Nori, I'll go ahead and open the breakout room for you and Mr. McClendon. You can tell him what your procedure is before you do the transcript. All right, we'll stand in recess. Otherwise, everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Close the Zoom hearing once y'all are through talking.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it, Nori.
No problem. Thank you, Judge.
Do you want me to go in there with you?
I'm sorry, what? Who?
Haley. Nori. Okay. I didn't know if she wanted me to go in there too.
I don't think that's any of our business.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.